Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of The Freelancer on IAK Sunday. I am Daniel P. Riley of Whimsyland.org Literary Coaching and Services. And today, as we always do, we're going to get some work done. But we also are going to talk about the benefits of critical thinking and when critical thinking can get out of control. So, critical thinking is one of the most amazing benefits to being a creative writer. And you may not think so, but the concept is based around asking questions. And what is fiction but asking a question? What if the world was this way instead of that way? What if a person could fly? What if you could hear the thoughts of other people? What if you could tap into something beyond most people's imaginations? And then you take it a step further and start to create a semi-realistic form out of that question. And to do that, you need to critical think. But there's a dark side to critical thinking. And it's something that I feel most, if not all, creators have unfortunately stepped into. And that is when you take it to an extent where the thinking outstrips and outweighs the creation. I talk to a lot of clients on a regular basis about ideas that they have, and I give them homework for the next time we sit down together. We come back and they're still thinking about it a week later. Now, granted, that is fine. Sometimes it takes years to percolate an idea, but there is a point where your thinking phase has started to take away from your creative phase. And what I mean by that is you can go from a concept and think your way totally out of that concept into something else. The progression of thoughts and ideas that you have as you spend more time rolling it around in your head is like playing Whisper Down the Lane. You know, the message gets more and more distorted as time goes by, and it gets reinvented as each individual thought, like each individual person in the game, interprets the idea and transforms it into something else. This is ultimately why I say what I call brain dumping or stream of consciousness writing and journaling are incredibly important if you're a creative writer, if you're any kind of writer really, but especially for a creative writer. If you do this, you will see that your initial idea and what you choose to actually write after letting it roll around in your head for a long time end up being vastly different from each other in the end. So I say to you before we get started on creating today, know when to stop. That can be said about anything, but specifically in creative writing, know and learn and experience what it is to not stray too far from your original idea. Because in my experience, your initial instinct is correct. You just need to refine the instinct, not totally change the subject. We can talk ourselves in and out of anything given enough time. And if you haven't yet, you will. I've done that a lot in my life. That being said, today, like every IAK Sunday, we're going to get some work done on whatever it is that we want to accomplish today, whether it's cleaning your room, painting a portrait, or writing in your journal, or writing your creative story that you've got in your head. I hope that sitting down with me for this hour inspires you to get that done. It inspires me every single Sunday. So, what we usually do are 2 20-minute Pomodoro writing sprints. I'm going to go back to the old staples of music to accompany us because last week's experiment failed with night driving. That was really boring and it just wasn't jiving with me. And we're going to put 20 minutes on the timer, then start to work on whatever it is we want to get done. And after that first 20 minutes, I have a book I want to tell you guys about. And if there are any comments in between now and then, we can talk about those as well. Without further ado, I think we're going to go with my daydreaming track provided by StreamYard. I'm going to mute myself and get to work on Legacy of Heroes 2 Rising Stars, my current project, which I'm coming towards the middle point of, and I'm really excited because, as I often describe it, a book is like a roller coaster. The start is slower and building and building and building and building and building, and then you've reached that top point where it just starts to come down. And I've often found that when I reach that peak of the roller coaster right before the drop is where I get the most excited, because I know everything from the halfway point on to the end is all there because I've laid the groundwork in the first half. Good preparation can make you incredibly productive in the end. So let's get to it. Gonna mute myself, start that music, and we're gonna go 20 minutes working on whatever it is we are working on today. Okay, see you in 20. All right, that is the end of our first 20-minute Pomodoro writing sprint. We're creating sprint, as it were. Hope you got some work done. We will be setting up to do a second one shortly, but first, I have a book I would like to tell you about. Some of you may have heard of it, but if you haven't, it is this. Now, this is my hard copy of the novel Record of the Paladins, Book of Oliver by B.P. McCoppin. That would be Brian McCoppin. And what's so interesting about this book is it is Christian action adventure fiction. That is a needle that is not often thread in obvious circles. And what I mean by that is, yes, I'm wearing the shirt, by the way, as extra merchandise. This is the same logo that he uses for the book. It is Roland's shield, I believe. What I mean by Christian action adventure is that, unfortunately, we don't think of the Christian religion as something heroic. And in this particular book, the group of people that are showcased in it, the characters that the main character becomes involved in, the Paladins, are exactly what they sound like. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a Paladin, essentially it is a knight crusader, specifically one who embodies duty, integrity, and honor. And in this regard, in the book's regard, it's to represent holy warriors who hold to those attributes and hold to their faith. Each of them has a special ability, and those special abilities are unique to a certain subset. I don't want to spoil too much of the book. There is great depth to the background concept and the setting, and the characters are interesting enough to be believable, but also each one of them is sort of a trope touchstone. And I really enjoyed that as a professional as much as a reader, that he was able to embody some very classic concepts in literature in his characters without making them be cardboard signage in the form of people. And if you've ever written fiction, you understand what I'm talking about. If you've read fiction, you'd probably understand there are characters that you read and you go, this person is just a walking billboard. None of the characters in Record of the Paladins do that or are that. Even the ones you might expect. Roland, as I mentioned before, is so close to the great knight of old fantasy that you would expect, but in a modern setting. But it's easy to see that Roland has depth to him that makes him more than just a clanky tank. For those of you who know gaming terms, clanky tank, big armor, takes the damage, deals it out. The story, on the other hand, is very religion centric. It is the fight of good and evil, and it doesn't go too much farther than that, and it doesn't need to. At the same time, it's not incredibly preachy, which is something that's very important to me. I myself am Catholic, and though everyone has their own personal biases, we've talked about that before, and they have a tendency to bleed into creative narratives. I personally believe that one of the failings of a lot of Christian literature is that it's extremely preachy. and it can't capture the interests of the everyday reader because of that. Record of the Paladins, on the other hand, like I said, does not get preachy at you. It makes faith an aspect of the mission. So you can treat it like soldiers battling what they see as evil in the world, but it's literally evil in the world. And the one weapon that they have that it can even be a crisis factor in certain character backstories. The one weapon they have that gives them the edge to be able to stand toe to toe with the greatest darkness in the setting is faith, and the powers that were granted to each of these individuals, for all intents and purposes, by God. His second book should be coming out very soon, and I am intrigued by the concept of it just as much as this one, which to me is a sign of a really good author, that your second book can be just as interesting as your first book, if not more so. So we'll see. I believe he's in the beta reading stage, but that means it's only going to be a couple of months before the second one comes out. And if you want to see what I mean by not preachy Christian action, check out Record of the Paladins by BP McCoppin. It is fun. It's exciting. It has great drama, action that we've all been looking for in entertainment that's been sorely lacking for the last 2 decades. And it's a concept that doesn't try to be anything more than it is: the battle of good and evil. Now, on that note, as we are getting close to the 40-minute mark, it is time to spool up our second Pomodoro writing sprint. Because I want to try to get as much done as I possibly can today, and I hope you do too. So we're going to put the music back on. We're going to set the timer again, and I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear the whole time. And let's get this done. Our 1 hour together needs to be as efficient as possible. I'll see you in 20 minutes. All right. That is the end of our second Pomodoro writing sprint or creating sprint, whichever it is that you are working on. How'd you do? What you do? Gonna tell you what I did in just a minute. Have to check my word count. Looks like a total of 1,377. Not bad. Lost a little bit of time because I was transitioning from the end of one paragraph to the next one. And to do that, I had to set up the heading and whatnot. I like to do that in flow rather than have to mess with it afterwards. But still pretty darn good progress for a Sunday afternoon. Now, real quick before I get to my outro, as I mentioned earlier, and the reason that I thought this would be a good time to do my review of Record of the Paladin for you is because, as I said, I am Catholic. And next weekend is Easter. There will be no The Freelancer next Sunday. I will be taking that day to celebrate my religious beliefs and spend it with my family, as one might expect. So you will be going a week without my insistence that you get some work done on Sunday afternoon. That said, this is The Freelancer with me, Daniel P. Riley of Whimsyland.org, on what we call IAK Sunday, which is spending your morning talking over Sunday coffee with Royce from A Drink with Crazy, coming here in the afternoon and getting some work done on whatever it is that you want to do on The Freelancer at 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Central. And then this evening at about 8:30, you can chill with Richard, play some video games, and talk on his chill stream. I hope everybody has a wonderful Sunday evening, especially if you go hang out with Richard on the chill stream. And I will see you in 2 weeks, not next week, unless you come and hang out with us on Friday nights, on Iron Age nights. Until then, keep creating.